Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with another painting video. I've been doing a lot of Astra Militarum videos lately and they've been very popular. You guys seem to like that content a lot, and I've been getting a lot of requests for other regiments. Obviously I've done a lot of Cadians and a lot of Krieg videos in the last while. And people are curious to see what I would do for other regiments, so I'm going to tackle my first one of those here today. I have done a Steel Legion on the channel before, and obviously Krieg and Cadian. So today I'm going to be tackling the Tallarn, which was actually a very heavily requested video. So maybe a bunch of you guys out there have collections or sets of Tallarn miniatures lying around. I'm just waiting to be painted up, so I hope this video helps you guys out with getting them out of your pile of shame and onto the tabletop as painted miniatures. So all of the ones I kind of looked up online, the Games Workshop official ones, all were that kind of like retro style, and that's not really what I want to go for here today. I'm going to take a little bit more of a modern approach to what a Tallarn is going to look like, and I'm also going to add in a little bit more of a green tinge to things like his armor and weapon casings, because I'm not sure whether I ever want to have a fully Tallarn army, but if I could have these as a regiment of desert fighters in my Cadian force, then I think that'd be very cool. I do have an entire regiment of these guys to paint, or entire platoon, so maybe that's what the future holds for me and Tallarns. Before I get into this video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my patrons. You guys literally keep the lights on, the cameras rolling, so thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. If you're interested in getting involved, you get access to a private Discord server and an extra video every single week just for you guys. I think that's pretty cool little bonuses for being a member. Okay, without further ado, let's get painting a Tallern Desert Raider. And this is the Tallern Desert Raider that I shall be using for this video. He was sculpted in 1993, so he is a very old model, but I think he still holds up a little bit. He's not the best looking miniature, but I think with a decent enough paint job, maybe we can see where we get with him. So I did my usual spray black and zenithal with Grey Seer, heavy Grey Seer, and then we started off with some Aggaros Dunes for all of his cloth. His uniform is obviously based around desert warfare, so to blend in with that surrounding, he's going to have a yellowy tan deserty style cloth slash jacket that he wears. I also did the wraps around his ankles the same color. After that, we moved over to Wyldwood. We did his trousers and then all of the belts and buckles and straps that run around his body, keeping his minimal body armor on, and his trousers, of course. I actually recently learned that Mordians, Praetorian Guard, Tallarn, stuff like that, they actually have flak boards basically stitched into their cloth, so they're still wearing full flak armor even though it doesn't look like it, which I thought was pretty cool. Creed Camo was then used for the armor panels. This is the bit where I wanted them to match in a little bit more with my Cadians, so I decided to go for a bit of green on the shoulder pads and the gun casings, and the sheath on his little blade at his waist as well. From here I moved over to Guilliman Flesh. That was obviously for all of the skin, which is face and forearms on this miniature. Tallarns are a particularly cool regiment of Astra Militarum, all based around desert warfare. They have a particularly specialized Rough Rider regiments. The story goes that there was an engagement that they had to get to, and unfortunately the way was barred. Chimera could not make it through, so the entire regiment mounted up on horses and then raced to the battlefield and managed to secure victory from defeat. Upon seeing this, and the high command at the time decided to remove all the chimeras from the regiment and just issue them with Rough Riders, so they became a massively mounted force, which has led to many of the great successes and victories, of course, on their record. So Tallarn Rough Riders, I think, are definitely something that'll be added to the force in the near future. Out of the gold and silver parts of the miniature, obviously you can choose which bits you want to be gold and which one to be silver, and then it was time to shade the miniature. So for that I went for Seraphim Sepia and washed the entire thing head to toe. The Grey Seer I used for the spray is obviously the base coat I'm using for all of the shawl and wrap bit on them, so I just made sure I didn't hit them with any of the other colours, except for the shade. Of course it's going to get shaded up. While the shade is drying, I'm also going to take my time and actually base the miniature up, and I'm going to base in the same way I based all of my Astra Militarum regiments, so they all match in together as one giant cohesive force. One day I would like to play a massive game with my Astra Militarum. Dozens of tanks and hundreds of infantry miniatures on the table, from I don't know, 6 different regiments. I think that'd be super cool. Okay, now it's time to layer the miniature. So I grabbed my Xandri Dust and layered up the jacket. I'm going to keep calling it a jacket. I don't know what it's really called. But yeah, just on the higher points, leaving all the folds nice and dark and shaded. Look and swish. Okay, from here we're going to move over to Catachan Flesh. I'm going to use this color to highlight all of the brown parts of the model, so the trousers and all the belts and buckles and straps and stuff we talked about earlier. All the bits that got that coat of Wyldwood are going to get the Catachan Flesh. Catachan Flesh is a really nice, rich, warm brown, even though it's still quite dark, so it works perfectly as a highlight for this. Wa Flesh was then brought in to highlight all the armor panels, which obviously isn't that much on this guy. He's got shoulder pads, obviously his gun casing, his canteen on the back, and that little sheath on his chest as well. But this is the same scheme I do for all the green armor on my Cadians, so like I said before, this will match in quite nicely with them. From here, we're going to do a two-stage highlight on the skin, so we're going to do Cadian and then Kislev Flesh. And it's very simple. It's just the normal thing with faces. You just want to highlight the kind of raised areas, so the nose, cheeks, eyebrows, forehead, chin, and any of the bits that are creased and dark in around the eyelids, and the sunken part of the cheek, under the lip. Those bits you're going to leave nice and dark. I'm going to then bring in Pallid Witch Flesh, and this is what I'm going to use to highlight the shawl or turban that he's wearing. Taking my time with this, I only really needed one kind of two coats of this to get a really nice solid white coat, which is all I really wanted. And it worked a treat. Gave me exactly the color that I wanted for these guys. Pure white would have been far too much. And with the sepia and all the recesses, it really did give it that kind of Desert Raider feel. And I was super happy with that as a result. So that was obviously the most daunting part about painting up Tallarn, is the white shawl on their head. And now that I have a really simple and easy and effective way of doing them, I feel much more comfortable kind of getting through more of them. Lead Belcher was then brought in to highlight all the silver and gold parts of the miniature. Some normal dot highlights on the gold parts, and then some standard highlights on all of the silver parts. While I had Pallid Witch Flesh on my brush, by the way, I just threw out over the coils of the plasma pistol, just so when I throw a nice shade or contrast over the top of it in a minute, it's going to make it glow a little bit better. And for this, I actually just used some Green Stuff World Intensity inks. I grabbed the orange, which is the same color I used for my giant plasma cannon on my Krieg tank I did the other day. So I'm in an orange plasma mood, I guess. So I just did that a coat over it. And with that, that finished off my first ever painted Tallern Desert Raider. I own, like I said, 60 of these guys, so I've got a couple more to get through. And then, of course, I'm going to have to scour eBay for things like command squads and heavy weapon teams, because unfortunately those are still missing from my collection. But what are you going to do? So this is another one of those instances where the collector in me bought up guard regiments when I knew they were going to go away. I figured they were going to disappear off the Games Workshop website years ago. And before they did, I basically bought a platoon of each and every one of them, except for Mordians, unfortunately. And I bought them more for, like I said, the collection. I wanted to see a regiment of them in my cabinets one day. So just basically I didn't feel left out. I'd never thought they would be as nice as this guy turned out to be. Even when I was holding him in the pewter, I was like kind of a clunky old potato model. You know, you don't have a pick on modern Tallarn, or sorry, modern Cadian miniatures. But the more I painted up, the more I fell in love with them. And now I'm like, oh God, I really want to paint more Tallarns. So that's I'll have to fight that urge for a little while. I've got too many Cadians and Krieg to get through for the next little while before I start another regiment. But yeah, I really like how this guy turned out. If you did, let me know in the comments below, and ask me any questions you want, including tell me what would the next regiment you think that I should paint are. I still have Praetorian Guard, Vostroyan, Valhallan, Catachan, Mordian to do as the official regiments. If there's any other regiments you want me to try and convert up and make miniatures for, let me know that in the comments below as well. Thank you very much for sticking around to the very end of the video. If you haven't already subscribed, take 2 seconds today and hit that subscribe button. And I think that's all for me. So I'll see you guys in the next video.